Hi everyone, and welcome to the virtual class section. Hope all of you are fine and staying safe at homes during this pandemic. And once this pandemic is over, we will all meet again. So, before going into today's class, let me ask you all a question. So, if I ask you, how many of you are brave enough to come voluntarily in front of a class or in front of an audience, in front of a crowd, without any fear, without any hesitation, without any force? Just come voluntarily in front of a crowd and perform something like a small speech introducing yourself, or singing a song or dancing. How many of you can do that without any difficulty? So if I ask you that question, it will be quite difficult for some of you or many of you. So what is the reason for this fear? What is this fear called? So as we all know, as we all experienced in our life, this fear is called stage fear. So now today in this lesson we are going to discuss about stage fear. And for that we have a beautiful story of Richard Wright titled as O Public Performance. So who was Richard Wright? Have you all heard about him? Okay, so let's all see who was Richard Wright. Richard Wright was an African American poet. He was a poet, he was an essayist, he was a novelist, he wrote non-fictions. So he wrote in almost all kind of genres. So what was his major themes? He wrote during the time of racial oppression of African Americans. So most of his themes dealt with the sufferings of African Americans. They were actually fighting against racial discrimination on the basis of caste and color. So in his young age also he was suffering from all these kinds of discriminations and all these things. So his works were also something which dealt with all these kinds of oppressions and sufferings of African Americans. So to know more about Richard Wright, his full name was Richard Nathaniel Wright, and he was born in 1908 in September 4. And once he has told us that words can be weapons against injustice. So yes, his works were against injustice. Injustice against whom? Against African Americans. So then now discussing what were his major works. His major works were actually Uncle Tom's Children, which was published in 1938, and then we have Native Son, which was published in 1940, and he has also written an autobiographical work which is titled as Black Son, which is titled as Blackie Boys, and it was published in 1945. So these were the major works of Richard Wright. Now coming to our story, O Public Performance. O Public Performance is actually about a small boy who was experiencing his first day at a new school. First day at a new school for most of us is not that easy, because we are going to face new friends, we are going to make new friends, we are going into an entirely new atmosphere. So this story is about how that boy experienced his first day in his first school. So the story is like, I hope you have all read the story once. I have told you to read it yesterday. So I hope all of you are familiar with the story. Now discussing about the story, the summary is like, the boy was sitting in his classroom, and the teacher was there. He was experiencing his first day of school, and all the friends, all the classmates there was new to him. So their teacher came, and she gave a task for all the students, and all the students were asked to come and write their names on the blackboard. So everyone was doing that very normally, and our boy, he was also very much quite confident about his name. He can write it down, he can spell it, and he can talk very confidently. He was very confident about all that things. So but what happened is that when he was called to write his name on his board, when his turn came, actually some kind of strange feelings started to pop in his head, and he was kind of frozen, and he was not able to do anything. So he just walked towards the blackboard, and he took the chalk, but he was not able to write his name, which he knew very well. He was very aware about his name. He very well knew that. He was able to spell it. He was knowing the spellings of his name, and he knew to write it, but he was unfortunately not able to do it that moment when he was asked to do it by the teacher. Why was that? That was the question that is popping out in his mind. So this teacher actually asked him, what happened to you? Come on, write your name. And she was very positively encouraging him to write the name on the blackboard. But this boy was completely numb, and he was not able to do anything about this. So the teacher did that she came, and she stood beside him, and she gently touched him and asked him to spell his name. And slowly and frightenedly, he actually spelled his name very correctly. And then the teacher asked him to, okay, then now write it down on the blackboard. That's just simple. But what happened is that the boys and the girls sitting in the classroom started to giggle and make fun at him. So this actually made him very conscious about what he is doing, and again he tried to write it, and he failed very miserably. So the teacher very patiently stood behind him and asked his name very quietly and very softly. She very much encouraged him, but he was not able to do it because of that fear inside him. That fear of so many boys and girls looking at him at the same time when he was going to write his name actually frightened him. So that moment, that kind of feelings is what we are going to discuss about, and that is called stage fear. This stage fear, we know that we have experienced, or we might be experiencing still now, the stage fear. We have experienced the stage fear at least once in our life, that's for sure. So it's very quite normal, and it is not something that we have to be ashamed of, or oh god, what happened to me, I'm not able to do this, I'm not able to face a crowd. That happens to everyone. What we have to understand is that stage fear is very normal. It can happen to anyone at any age, without consideration of their gender, their age, or anything. All you need is to build some confidence. All you need to ignore all the people sitting in front of us. Just focus on what you have to do. Be sure about what you're going to do, and then build your confidence to the peak and go for it. And you will be able to do that. You will be having some sort of pressures at the beginning, or during the first or the second times, but you will be able to do it through continuous practice. So that's what Richard Wright's story about the boy who was not able to write his name on the blackboard teaches us. Hope you all have understood the story. Now, now what you people have to do is to you people have two homeworks to do from home. One is to actually hunt out all the new words which you can find out from our story and collect the meanings too. And the second thing is very interesting. that you people have to make a write-up on how was your first experience of a stage performance, okay, or how was it for you people to experience a stage or a crowd or an audience for the first time in your life. What you people felt? Were you afraid or were you brave enough? You have to write it down as a writer and bring it tomorrow as your homework. Okay, then hope you all understood the story. Now those are the activities for you. And okay, so I think it's time for us to wind up. You can ask me any doubts considering this story in the comment section. So hope you all have a nice time at home during this quarantine, and take care and bye bye.